Welcome back to the association. We are coming to you live on NBA TV and the NBA app. I'm Roz Goldenwood. That's my guy, Ben Taylor, and we are breaking down all the analysis, replays, reactions coming out of game 7. It went all the way to the final game in the Eastern Conference as the Cavs had a dominant performance over the Pistons, 125-94 to get the win to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2018. And they will be taking on the Knicks, who have been waiting. Right now, we are getting reactions coming out of Detroit. Head coach Kenny Atkinson of the Cavs is at the presser podium. Let's take a listen.
Yep, you got to take it. Yeah, you know, he told me. I didn't read it. He told me I got them in 7. So I didn't read it. I don't read him.
Hey, Kenny. You said before the game that you just needed Donovan Mitchell to beat Donovan Mitchell tonight. In what way do you feel like that manifested itself?
He was better than Donovan Mitchell. Is that possible? I don't know if I can. That's like bad English. He started with him. His defense, rebounding, and then when he gets in the paint and starts making other people better, you know, the dish-offs to our big guys, that was the key, I felt like, to the game. So he had complete control of the game. Listen, man, I couldn't be happier for him, you know, to make that next step. He's going home, you know, to New York, you know. He kept this thing together this year when things weren't going great. He was the beacon, the light, his leadership. He carried us on the court, right? Sam Merrill out 30 games, Evan out, you know, J.A. out. He was the guy that carried us. And then when things weren't going great, he was the person everyone looked to. And his positivity. And I would have said this if we lost. I had a plan. If we lost, I was going to say the same thing. We could have splintered. If your leader splintered, you know, if he goes in another direction, which he very well could have, things weren't going great, but he stayed positive. He supported the young guys. He never got down on the group. So just, you know, kind of more kudos to him, you know, in terms of getting to that, you know, the level he wanted to get to, and I know he wants more.
Game 7 on the road, given all the pressure and all the stakes, what does a performance like this show about this group?
When we play with force, it's really the key. Like force on both ends. With our talent, we're really hard to beat. You know, what we got to answer, the question we got to answer, and we talked about in the locker room is, you know, we can have forced letdowns. You know, like Game 6, where we were not the forceful team, but tonight we were. That was the whole difference, our force on both ends.
Kenny, understanding that this group has larger goals than just winning this game and advancing to the conference finals, this is a place that this group has not yet been. What does this accomplishment mean to you and to this group?
You know, it's like, you know, and everybody says, oh, it doesn't mean that. No, it does mean something. I think it does. I think this was the next step for us. You know, first day of training camp, I put up our playoff record over the last 3 years, 11-15. You know, I've been saying all year we have a lot to prove. You know, and we, you know, we still have more to prove. That's kind of the next part of it. But we proved something to ourselves that we could take that, you know, another step. Just looking forward to this next challenge for us.
What is it with Jared Allen in Game 7s?
I don't know. You know, I had dinner with Dan Gilbert last night. He came over to our hotel, and he goes, you know who the key to this whole thing is? You know, I was thinking Harden, Mitch. He goes, the key to this whole thing, the spark of this is Jared Allen. I said, really? And that sparked me to run the first play for him. I'm like, man, have I been, sometimes you have, people who observe from afar, plus Dan knows the team well and knows these guys. It was really, I was like, man, I went to my room. I'm like, man, I'm going to run the first play for him, which I think got blown up with. But anyway, I'm like, man, we got to, and in our film session, we had to reward the big. Sometimes you have to be reminded. And that was great by Dan. He hit it on the head. He was prophetic.
Just felt like from the first quarter, you guys, to your word, like play with force. Mitchell was sort of distributing the ball. Just like what do you think led to that? Why do you think that you guys just kind of came out sort of hitting first from the jump?
Well, you said it, Mitchell distributing the ball. I think that was a big part of it. Listen, I can't say I predicted that we were going to do that. Like Game 7, their arena, the crowd was, and it was across the board, right? I think we knew that start was monumental. The start that they knew that we were here, and that we were going to give them some problems, and we talked about it today. We talked about it in our film session. At the beginning of the game, that was key. And then coming out of halftime is the same, same message. We got to win this first 5 minutes, to put them on their heels.
That was Cavs head coach Kenny Atkinson, who addressed the media, very reflective on the season journey. Ben Taylor, you were listening to that. What stood out to you about what Coach had to say about the game?
Well, the first comment was playing with force, because I think this is a team that, as the game has become more physical, as the playoffs are more physical, stronger players can bully them around, kind of, quote unquote, bully them around. So it is true that as one of the weaker defensive teams, Stan Van Gundy mentioned this on the call, that's a calling card for them. When they play with physicality, when they're sturdy on their drives, box outs, defensive screen, fighting through screens. That was actually one of my big notes, Roz, in the game was Cleveland came out and tried to run a lot of off-ball action. Detroit tried to run a lot of off-ball action, and Cleveland defensively had success blowing that up. And so if you're at home, you're like, why is Cade Cunningham just dribbling out at the top of the key for 10 seconds? It's because they're trying to run these off-ball plays, and the Cavs got into the cutters and screeners away from the ball and blew those actions up. So that's one. And the other one, I just love the story about, I'm going to run the first play for Jared Allen because of what Dan Gilbert mentioned. And then sure enough, like perfect scenario for this game tonight, they run the play for Jared Allen. It's blown up. What ended up happening on that first play? Donovan Mitchell cut at Evan Mobley in the paint, an impromptu random cut at the end of the shot clock, caught it in the paint, turned and threw him a lob for an easy score, which just was portending the rest of the evening. So, Well, what about you?
Ben, coming back to your first original point where you were talking about how the Cavs defense was able to blow up a lot of what the Pistons wanted to get into. They couldn't even run their actions. It really speaks a lot to the physical and mental concentration of the Cavs throughout the game. Just absolutely locked in on the assignment and the urgency and just in synergy with one another of being the aggressors in this game, which they weren't in Game 6, and raised their hand and admitted that. And so you saw it takes a lot out of you to be so locked in, not only physically and mentally. And now this is the second series where the Cavs have had to go to Game 7. And I know we have the schedule here of the Eastern Conference Finals coming up. If you look at that, this series they're going to take on the Knicks, who have been waiting and resting. And this series starts on Tuesday, and it's every other day as you see this. So there's a fatigue factor perhaps too for the Cavs who had to really fight to make this happen. All right, that's the schedule coming up as the Cavs. Go ahead, Ben.
No. Let's keep going. We got more to get to.
Oh, we got so much to get to. Actually, here at the association, we've been doing something where we have a crown for exceptional play in these playoff games, and we are calling it the Association Player of the Game. And we have picked one for Game 7. And it's no surprise, it's Donovan Mitchell, who Coach Atkinson had some really huge words about. Donovan Mitchell's stat line: 26 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, maybe even more impressive, 0 turnovers, considering how much the ball is in his hands. And now Donovan Mitchell helps to lead the Cavs to the Eastern Conference Finals. For Donovan, it's also a career moment. It's his first time ever advancing to a conference finals. How much of a signature moment is this in Donovan's career?
It's kind of like a finally we're in the conference finals. It feels like he's been in positions, especially with Utah, to be there. They've been very close with Cleveland as well. So, he's had incredible playoff moments going back to the bubble, 57-point games, really big series. And I think the theme is going to continue in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Knicks are going to try to slow him down and take him away. And, if he can continue to produce and get in the paint and make decisions like he did tonight, I think, look, if you're a Cleveland fan, this is what I was going to say earlier, Roz, the optimism going into the conference finals, despite up and down play at times, despite these back-to-back 7-game series, despite possible fatigue, is that if you can play with force and you can get your best players to make really good decisions and put them in a position to succeed, and you get an A game like you got tonight, you can pretty much beat anybody. You can certainly compete with the Knicks and make that a really, really fun, interesting series. So, yeah, I know as our resident Knicks fan, you're very excited about it.
I'm excited for the series. I'm also really happy for Donovan Mitchell. In my coverage of the NBA and just being around players, I've always liked to say Donovan Mitchell is first team all human. He's such a great guy, and you love to hear that that's carried over in the locker room and on the court. What stood out to me about Kenny Atkinson's time at the podium is him saying, like, giving all of those flowers to Donovan Mitchell, saying he had not only complete control of the game, but he kept this thing together when things were not going great. The locker room could have splintered, and instead it was Donovan Mitchell that the guys looked to. This was somebody who kept them buoyant with his positivity and leadership. And for me, that's what sticks out when you listen to Kenny Atkinson post game at the podium after Game 7. Donovan Mitchell, our association player of the game. We got more to talk about, but boy, he did his big one. All right, guys, stay with us. On the other side,
would you say he was a positive
analysis
Patty?
coming up. We're looking ahead. MVP convo on the association. Don't go anywhere.